I think that an important thing to understand about magic is that every single act that is done intentionally with a desired outcome is a magical act. So when you learn to live a magical life, you start to realize that there is no separation between the so-called mundane and the magical. Because again, every single act that you take intentionally is a magical act. From as simple as putting on your shoes to doing a complex rite to bring more prosperity into your life. And I think part of living the magical life is actually coming to understand what each act in your life that you take accomplishes and why you undertake it. It becomes a very mindful practice. I hope this has given you something to think about. Blessed be. This is a new witch appreciation video, or as they're often called, baby witches. Now, personally, I love the term baby witches. I know that a lot of people have complained about it because I guess some people use the term pejoratively, as if being a baby witch is a bad thing. I see it a little differently, though. To me, the phrase baby witches reminds me of the same thing that I love in babies. This person who is open to new experience, who's just discovering the world, in this case, the world of magic for the first time. And they're filled with excitement and curiosity. And I love to see that. And I think it's wonderful. And yeah, sure, they need a little guidance here and there, mainly just to make sure that, they don't bang their head on the coffee table, so to speak, because, you don't want them getting hurt. But you don't want to discourage that exploring nature either. So yes, I love new or baby witches, and I welcome all of you. And I hope that you find welcome and support and encouragement here. Blessed be. I'd like to offer some advice and encouragement to newer witches today. My biggest bit of advice is don't be afraid of making mistakes. And let's be honest, you're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Witchcraft is a practice, which means it's something that you do. And most things you learn by doing, and you learn through making mistakes. The thing is that mistakes are not a huge deal. Chances are you're not going to make a mistake that's going to have some demon appear and pull you into the pits of hell. Every mistake can be cleaned up. Every mess can be cleaned up usually. Maybe not perfectly, but again, if you use some sound judgment, then you should be okay. And you'll learn a lot of things. And besides, you might even learn that what you thought were mistakes weren't mistakes after all. Blessed be. So, let's say you make a mistake, and we'll focus on mistakes during a spell or rite. Let's say you are calling a quarter, if you call quarters, and you mention the element of earth rather than water. Or let's say you're doing a chant and you trip over a word in a chant, or you forget the next word. The first key to handle a mistake like that is don't panic. Try your best not to break the energy. Try to make it so that it's not a big deal. If you say the element of earth instead of water, just stop yourself and say water. In that case, might even just laugh a little bit. Laughter dissipates nervous energy a lot, and that's helpful, and that can actually help you build back up the energy. If you trip over a word in a chant, just stop and say, well, I wouldn't even say stop, but just restart the chant or continue the chant as quickly as you can, and maybe go through the chant a couple of more times just to help build that energy back up, that momentary pause or slip, so that you build that back up. After that, the other big thing that you want to do is, if this is a piece of your ritual or a spell that you're going to use, look at why did you slip up? And again, do this with a mind of improving things, not criticizing yourself. Maybe the wording of your chant was just a little bit clumsy, and and if that's the case, make a note of that in your magical journal, and even note, okay, maybe reword it like this so that it flows a little bit better next time, and then you can use that information the next time you use that chant. Maybe that new wording will flow more easily and you won't run into that problem. In the case of, forgetting a word or saying the wrong thing, that's just a matter of practice. That's just a matter of taking time. I mean, if you play a sport, I'm sure you didn't play that sport perfectly when you started out. and you just noticed your mistakes and figured out how to fix them. Same thing with learning your multiplication tables back in elementary school. You made mistakes and you got the wrong answer, you said the wrong thing, and through practice you got better at it. And that's the same idea with magic and doing these kinds of mistakes. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. Blessed be. I wanted to talk about prepared spells today. I know a lot of people like spells that they can get off the internet or out of books. I know there's lots of books that have like 100 spells you can cast. And I have very mixed feelings about those. I understand why they're so appealing, especially to new witches who may not be ready to, create their own spells from scratch. But at the same time, magic is more than just, doing the right things and following a recipe. And I think sometimes that gets forgotten. So even if you are using someone else's spell that you got off the internet or something, I would encourage you to put time into thinking about it. How do the various items in the spell and the various chants and maybe the candles and whatever, how do they reflect and mirror your own intent and what you're trying to accomplish? It's up to you to make that connection between what you're doing and what it means, and to keep that in your mind as you're working your magic. And that also means sometimes adjusting spells. Maybe the spell says to use a certain color of candle, but for you and your meaning and your specific intent, a different candle color makes more sense. And you should feel free and empowered to do that. And at some point, maybe even you will start working on your own magic and, doing your own spells from the beginning. And I think that that's a very good thing, because the thing to remember is the planning of the rite, of the spell, or whatever you're doing, is part of the magic. It's that focusing on your intent and patterning the entire working around that intent. Anyway, I hope this has given you something to think about. Until next time, blessed be. I think an important part of my witchcraft tradition and an important concept is the idea of creation, and that creation is not a completed process. Creation is something that is ongoing. The universe was not wound up by some cosmic being who then just walked away and now the universe is winding down. The universe is continuing to go through a process of growing and expanding and creating and being created. And the important thing is that we as humans are part of that creative process. We're actually co-creators. We're contributing to where that creation process leads and what the universe becomes. And this is actually a central part of how magic works in my understanding of magic. That, magic is another tool we have in that tool chest that we have, that toolkit that we have, that allows us to shape and create. And I think this is important because I know years ago, I read this thing where someone suggested that, the problem with magic is that it goes against the created order and that, and it's like, well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because we are part of that creative process. And our magic is part of that creative process. At any rate, I hope this has given you something to think about today. Blessed be.